So this is a superpower that I feel like everyone has, this money-making superpower. I feel like everyone has it, but most people don't really tap into it enough, or maybe they don't really understand it, or maybe they just don't realize they have it, because every person has this money-making superpower. We've just got to figure it out. I've actually shared this in my latest newsletter. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I share cool, interesting stories, experiences, and links to interesting things that I found over the last month. So make sure to check it out. I feel like a lot of you who are subscribed to this channel, you care about making money. You care about being wealthy, maybe. You care about just trying to come up with different ways of making money. Now, the way I see it is, and I'm sure a lot of you are like this, is you just want to make enough money where you're comfortable, where you live in a nice house, you can pay for nice things here and there, but the main important thing is that you can cover all of your bills and you don't have to worry about sort of like, oh, can I pay rent? Can I pay my mortgage? Can I get this? Can I get that? You just want to be comfortable. And that's always been my aim in life, being comfortable. That's my sort of vision of perfect wealth, I think. I think anything beyond that is just a bonus. It's nice to have. If you can afford to go on fancy holidays, afford fancy cars, all of that to me is definitely a bonus. And I'm definitely lucky enough to be able to do those things, to appreciate a nice car or go on a nice holiday or whatever. Now, I'm not buying mega mansions and having yachts or anything like that. That sort of stuff, obviously, who wouldn't say no? Like, we'd all love to have a yacht, but I couldn't care less if I didn't have one. Like, that's not an aim for me. That's not a goal. The aim for me has just been to be wealthy enough where I can have a roof over my head, I can pay my bills, I can have a rainy day fund, I can have an emergency fund, I can maybe help family, friends if they need to. Now, for a lot of people, getting to that position can be quite difficult. I completely understand that. And I was one of those people as well. To be wealthy, I thought you had to own property, you had to own businesses, you had to own these things. Now, sure, you do need to own things like that to be wealthy, but getting there is the tough part. And I completely understand that, because again, for me to get to that position, it took me time, it took effort. And the one thing I realized, something that I feel like is quite new, is the idea of you can make your own assets that make you wealthy. So like I said, you could buy a property, you could buy a business, but you're going to need obviously capital, you're going to need money to buy a house. And if you buy a business, maybe you don't know how to run that business. Sure, it could maybe cost less money, but it's even riskier. So in this sort of digital age that we live in, where we have computers, where we have internet, one thing I realized sort of early on was that I could essentially make money, sort of wealth creation, from digital products, from digital assets. And the best thing about that is that it pretty much takes no money to make at all. So when I think back to what I first started doing, when I first wanted to make money online, the first thing I did was obviously learn something that I was interested in. I was interested in learning design, just knowing how to use programs like Photoshop, Sketch, Figma. I was also interested in web design, so I wanted to make websites and stuff, so I learned code, just simple HTML and CSS. I am no super engineer or anything. I don't know JavaScript. I don't know like React or anything like that. I definitely don't consider myself like a super coder or anything, but I do like to think that I have enough knowledge of HTML and CSS. Well, I do have enough knowledge of HTML and CSS to make a website from scratch. It's one of the first ways that I started making money, was making websites for other people. And that just came from nowhere. That came from nothing. Like, I didn't need any money to learn how to make a website. All I needed was a computer, which I used from my family. I just used the family laptop that we had, family computer that we had, and I learned how to make websites just by googling stuff. Even now, when people ask me, hey, what course do you recommend to learn design, to learn website creation, stuff like that, I honestly couldn't tell you. I honestly couldn't tell you, because when I started, there was no such thing as using a course or having a course or buying a course to learn that stuff. You just read blog articles and you did different tutorials and stuff, and you made stuff. That was one thing that I definitely benefited from a lot. I didn't actually do a lot of theory. I didn't do a lot of reading. I just did a lot of making. So I'd see a tutorial on how to make something, and I would just do it because I thought, oh, that looks cool. Let me see if I can make it as well. Let me see if I can do it. Using those skills that I learned early on as a late teen, early 20s young person. It's weird saying that because I'm in my late 20s now and I'm going to be like 30 next year, and I'm just like, oh my God. But anyway, yeah, I kind of think to myself, using those skills that I had, I sort of expanded those skills. I did various different things because it got me interested in a bunch of other stuff. I'm going to go back to my Tumblr themes business. I've mentioned this business so many times before, but I feel like this is such a good example of just wealth creation, money making superpower from just nothing, from absolutely nothing. Because Tumblr themes, when Tumblr was popular, it was a thing. people used to buy Tumblr themes. People still do buy Tumblr themes. It's not as popular now, but those design skills that I learned, the HTML and CSS skills that I learned, I then took those. I looked at Tumblr's theme documentation, Tumblr's sort of theme creation documents and stuff like that. And I started making Tumblr themes. I was making these Tumblr themes from scratch. From 2014, since 2014, I have made nearly $700,000 from Tumblr themes. $695,000 to be exact. If I divide that over 8 years, so since 2014 until now, over 8 years, that is $86,000 a year. Now that is actually my cut. That is the amount that I take home. Obviously I have to pay taxes on it, business taxes like corporation tax and income tax and stuff like that. But that is the money I get directly from Tumblr. So that's after the cut that they've taken. That's after transaction fees, stuff like that. $86,000 a year. That's a pretty good, well, I say that's an amazing salary, to be honest. That's a really good salary in any job, really. But the crazy thing is, I haven't made a Tumblr theme in probably over 4-5 years, something like that. Most of this money, the $695,000, I made a good chunk of it early on. I'd made like, I think, 300,000-400,000 in the first sort of couple of years. And then it sort of dwindled off since then. Now, obviously making that money quite quickly, you know, you've got to be sensible with it, which thankfully I was. I wasn't going out spending it like crazy. But I like to see it as like, if I divided that like I have over 8 years, $86,000 a year, that is just, to me, that is incredible. To make that same amount of profit in 8 years from something like a property would have probably required me to buy a $2 million property or something. You know, to buy a $2 million property, I would need to obviously have a deposit of at least 10%, which is $200,000. Where am I supposed to get that? Like, I don't have any money. Well, I didn't have any money at the time. And then I also need to get a mortgage to prove that I can afford a $1.8 million mortgage. That's absurd. And then I'll have to pay property taxes and you know, all these other taxes that are involved. With something like this, where I have literally just made a product from nothing, this money-making superpower that I have, that I feel like everyone has, it's just crazy, because you can really make a lot more money from, I'd say, like a lot less work. Yeah, I think a lot less work, because, you know, if you wanted to buy a $2 million property and you're starting from nothing, that's really hard. That's nearly impossible. I don't really know how you would do it, other than somehow getting a very high paying job, somehow saving as much money as you can to get the deposit, and then being able to get the mortgage, which you probably won't be able to, because if you need to get a $1.8 million mortgage, oh my God, you'd need to earn like $500,000 a year, something like that, 400,000 a year. That's crazy. There are very few people earning that sort of money. So this money making superpower that I feel like everyone has, it's just the act of creating something from nothing. We all have access to computers. We all have access to phones. We all have access to this wealth of knowledge online. It's all down to what you pick, what you find interesting, what you think you would enjoy doing, and then somehow spinning that into a money-making machine. I see so many people do it online all the time. My friend Ali Abdaal is obviously a great example of this. You know, he took a YouTube channel, this audience that he had, you know, he built a channel quite quickly. He went from 0 to, you know, 3 million, 2 million subscribers in a couple of years. So he clearly has experience in building a YouTube channel quickly. So that only makes sense to make it into a course of how to be a YouTuber, how to become a YouTuber. And that business for him makes him millions a year. And he just created that from nothing. That is pure wealth creation from just nothing, from skills that he already has, skills that he just learned on the job, which I feel like a lot of people do. Understandably, a lot of you will think, I don't have any skills, I don't really know what to do. And that's completely okay. What I would suggest is figuring out what you enjoy doing. Or maybe you get a normal job, you get a normal 9 to 5, and you learn as much as you can in that job. Because most people who start businesses, who start doing their own thing, usually do it after they've done a 9 to 5 for a couple of years. Obviously, I've been lucky enough where I was able to do this sort of straight out of school. That's just me. My use case is not going to be the same for everyone else's use case. I think that's another thing that a lot of people do get hung up about. They think that when they see someone else's story, that it will sort of apply to them. And, you know, this is maybe shooting myself in the foot here, but I think to myself, sure, I've done it one way, I've done it my way, but that doesn't necessarily mean you should listen to my advice because my advice only works for me. So I'm sharing my experiences and what I've done. It's up to you to take that on board. It's up to you to get what you will from that. I think it's important to hear about other people's experiences, hear about how they've done it, That doesn't necessarily mean you should copy them and expect the same results, because yeah, that just doesn't happen. There's no such thing like that. You've just got to figure out what's your money making superpower. You might not figure it out now. You might figure it out in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, something like that. Don't feel like you have to rush it. But if you're good at something now, maybe it's something like making websites. Maybe it's something like product design. Maybe it's something like learning some bit of software or something. I see people who even sell sort of knowledge and courses and stuff like that on just using pieces of software like Figma and Notion. You know, there's that Eslo person Jason, his name is, who I've brought up multiple times in my videos, and he makes money from Notion templates. He's just taken the time to learn Notion. He loves Notion. He's learned as much as he possibly can about that program, and he's sharing that knowledge online to people who are interested, and he's selling templates and sort of courses. I don't know if he's selling courses actually, maybe ebooks, but mainly templates and stuff like that. And you know, he made like 200,000 in like the last year, and he's 20, 21 years old, which is just amazing. Like, he's just taken something that he already loved doing, and he's turned that sort of superpower of knowing Notion, knowing as much as he could about Notion, and turning it into a sort of money-making machine. And that's from absolutely nothing. I think it's just so impressive. And there are so many people who do that. My YouTube business is another example. You guys watch these videos. Sometimes they get sponsored. I make money from AdSense. I also have my tech channel, same thing. AdSense and sponsors. Sponsors is where I actually make the most money. But here I am just sort of sitting in front of a camera, sharing stuff that I'm interested in, and people are listening, which I think is absolutely wild. That just blows my mind that there are thousands of you just listening to what I have to say. Like, that's absurd to me. And it also somehow makes me money. Like, what world are we living in? Like, when you really think about it, I'm going off on a tangent here, but I just think to myself, that is wild to me, especially because when I look at my stats, like in the last month, well, over the last month, I've made over $40,000 from YouTube. Like, what? How? What? Most of it is sponsors. I'd say 10% is AdSense. And then a portion of it is like my digital products and other stuff that I have going on. But yeah, $40,000 from YouTube. Like, it just blows my mind. I mean, it's not passive by any means, because obviously I have to keep making videos to get the audience, to get the views. But I know if I just left it running in the background, I'd still make a little bit of money from AdSense here and there, which is nice. So I feel like, yeah, going back to the whole idea of everyone has the superpower of creation. Like, everyone has that money-making superpower. I think it's more important creating assets than buying assets. The first thing is making assets, creating assets that currently make you money, currently bring you cash flow, which is what I am focused on. And then using that money as it sort of accumulates over time, putting it into things like stocks and shares, property and businesses, and other things where your money sort of just goes up in value slowly over time. So yeah, this was supposed to be a quick video on sort of money-making superpower. I've sort of gone off on a tangent, but I just wanted to waffle. I just wanted to share some of my thoughts and what I've been thinking recently. And I really do think this sort of money-making superpower, being able to create products, digital assets and stuff, is the most powerful skill that we all have, that we just don't tap into enough, and a lot of people just don't realize that they have. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something. That's actually the main reason why I have this channel. It's just, I just want to share stuff, and hopefully people can learn something small, something big, something maybe life-changing. That's really pompous for me to say, really up myself, but or maybe just something that impacts your life a little bit. Maybe that's what all YouTubers are like. Maybe that's why we all do it. We want to feel special because people are listening to us. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and make sure to check out one of my other videos. I did a video recently on sort of, I think it's 10 side hustle, side income idea sort of video. It's doing quite well. A lot of you are enjoying it, so make sure to check out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and subscribe for more.